Good afternoon. Welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for another fan debate show. This afternoon, we're talking all things Barnsley. It's time to talk about the top 5 best Barnsley strikers of all time. Joining me to discuss, Andy Symcox from Red All Over. Andy, how are you getting on? First of all,
I'm better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah, it's been a busy week.
At this rate, the only way is up. But yeah, not bad. No, not bad.
Well, we'll try and distract you for a little while away from the managerial goings on at Oakwell. Barnsley fans, if you're watching, do get in touch with us. Let us know who you feel are the best 5 strikers you've ever seen at your club. Andy, let's get straight into it. Then let's talk number 5. So, Andy, you've got 5 strikers.
Yeah. I've made a little list of 5 strikers. It's really difficult, really. I asked viewers and subscribers to our show, and I've got loads of who they considered the best ones. So I've gone with the ones that I thought, but including the ones that I might have, the occasional story of. But we're such a big club, you see. We've had so many strikers over the years because we're such a big club that there's hundreds to pick from because and they've all been brilliant. Obviously, that's why we're next to the bottom of the championship. But for me, crikey, I've been supporting them since I was 5 years old, and I'm 67, so it's been a few years. So I've tried not to go too far back because if I go too far back, people will just be saying, "Oh, who's that?" So like Barry, no idea. I mean, Barry Thomas and Johnny Evans, who were the little and large of the. I'm not going to talk about them. So try and keep it right. Number five, where it starts for a lot of people. Alan Clark. Alan Clark came to us, it'd be 1978, from Leeds, as a player coming towards the end of his career. Played wonderfully for Leeds and for England and what have you. He came as our player manager, and when he came, I know it might mean to some people, we were in the 4th division, League 2 as it is now, and we just not quite made it to the. To the top 4 because 4 were promoted. There were none of these playoffs or anything like that. So he just kept failing, over the last month for a couple of seasons on the trot. Clarkey came in and I can only describe as revolutionised the club, made it much more professional, made it much harder to beat. I'm not saying this is great, but he brought some of his Leeds ways, and we scored. I think it was in the first minute in a League Cup match, really early on in the season at Scunthorpe, and we started going to the corner flag from the second minute to waste time. And although I'm not an exponent to that at all, it gives you some idea that he got a will to win. He scored. He got us promoted, and then he started us off. We got promoted. Then we wasted 2 seasons before he went back to manage Leeds, as it happens. And he did really well for us in terms of how many goals he scored, the appearances he made. He brought in Norman Hunter as his assistant, which was, the following season, which was outstanding because he was outstanding as a defender for us. And we started playing proper football. We were in the promotion places the season after to what's now the Championship, and that's when he left for Leeds in 1980. And Norman Hunter took over and got us over the line. So we got promoted back to the Championship, where we stayed for a long, long time. But let me check, because I can't remember how many goals he scored. No, I can't remember how many goals. He scored quite a few. I think about 15 or 16 goals, something like that. So he made the difference from being a sort of a 4th division club or a League 2 club that occasionally flirted with promotion and was relegated back to the bottom division, and it turned us into what you would call a proper professional club that looked at things professionally rather than part-time players, and not that professional in both its outlook and the way that the club was run, as far as I remember, because it's a few years ago. Alan Clark, absolutely. Alan Clark set the ball rolling. So definitely. I'm not doing them in order which I think the best one and the next one. I'm going to do them almost in chronological order. But absolutely, Alan Clark set the ball rolling for our club.
Before we get to number four in your order, Andy, just on Alan Clark, obviously, big Leeds connection. When he did arrive at Oakwell, was there a little bit of reservation? I mean, you can imagine, obviously, there's that rivalry between the two clubs, or given what obviously he did for the club once he'd arrived at Barnsley, I guess that all got forgotten in a way.
Well, yeah, I mean, until recently, until the last couple of years when Leeds gone up again, we were close rivals. I mean, then when we're talking, and we're in the fourth division, and they're in the first division Premiership. So there weren't a lot of rival. I mean, the fact that they were nearby and we got people from Barnsley going to Leeds to watch Leeds, glory hunting rather than supporting their own club. Our closest rivals were Rotherham, to be honest. Okay. So no, they weren't a massive rival. We were just really, really pleased that he came because a quality player that got us playing real quality football in a very professional way. So if we took the lead, I'm not saying we always went to the corner flag because we didn't, but he brought some of his, let's say, Don Reeves' know-how, if you like, and made us difficult to beat. And then obviously brought in Norman Hunter and, bite your legs, Norman was still biting legs, but playing, quality football. It was a joy to watch at that time. So, well done. Glad he came back. He came back as manager a few years later, and that didn't work out. So I think the moment had passed with Alan. So,
okay.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
Right. Let's move on to the next one then. Right, Andy, who have you got next?
My number 4 from 1988 for a couple of seasons, and I'll tell you, was David Curry. We got him from Darlington, and then we finished up selling him to Brian Clough at Nottingham Forest. I've got to say Nottingham Forest. If you say Notts Forest, I get told off by Dore on tour, Mr. Dore in their podcast. So it's got to be Nottingham. It's Notts County, Nottingham Forest. He was what David Curry was what you'd expect of a sort of a rock star footballer with long hair, incredibly mercurial. And a Barnsley fans, like most fans, love a mercurial player that nobody knows what they're going to do. We've had a few in the past. We've had Daniel Nardiello as one example more latterly, and Adam Hamill, who's not particularly a striker, who's a winger, but scored a good number of goals. So we like, the sorts of player that when he gets the ball, people get on their feet ready because something's going to happen. And that was definitely David Curry. He scored, let me check, 30 goals in 80 appearances. He hardly played for Notts Forest. I think he played 8 matches for Notts Forest before being shipped off to Oldham. But for us, he was people didn't like playing against because when the ball were at his feet, anything could happen, and often did. So it was an absolute joy to watch, and scored some tremendous goals. He was a partner, like a lot of clubs, he was a partner with Steve Cooper. So he was the sort of foil for Steve Cooper as the target man. And so like in a lot of clubs, a great combination of the two. And it allowed Curry to Red Hot Curry, we used to call him, because he was absolutely on fire for a season, nearly 2 seasons, which is why Forest, finished up coming in, because they were a big club at the time, and obviously we weren't.
Yeah.
So yeah, David Curry, without a shadow of a doubt.
Were you surprised, Andy? Because obviously you've mentioned there he wasn't at Forest very long. Were you surprised by that at the time? Because obviously, Barnsley obviously did really well.
I'm trying to remember what I read. I don't think Cloughy particularly rated him. I'm not sure in Clough's mode. His model because of the hair and the flamboyance and what have you. So it doesn't surprise me. I'd be surprised if Cloughy hadn't told him to get his hair cut within minutes of walking and get your hair cut or you'll not play. I don't know. But I just, from what I remember reading, I just don't think he rated the flamboyance of it all. But honestly, George, what a player! He could dance with the ball at his feet, and some players, defenders all over the place, no idea where he was going with it. I'm not sure he always knew where he was going with it, but he always got there. Yeah. And he scored some tremendous goals.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I was never fortunate enough really to see him play live myself, but he sounds like he was a fair sight to watch up front, particularly for Barnsley.
Anybody that's seen David Curry play will remember him completely because of his style.
Okay, brilliant, Andy. Let's move on to your third one. Who have you got for us next, then, Andy?
No doubt about the third one for me. It was John Hendry at the season 96 to 97 season. Danny Wilson was the manager. We won the first 5 games, so in the championship. So we're doing really, really well. And then we dropped off a bit and came back. And we bought Paul Wilkinson brought Paul Wilkinson in from Middlesbrough. Knocking on, but could still do it. A good target man for us. And we had other players like Andy Liddell who could play off him and what have you. We just started to fade a little bit because you need a squad. Even then, you needed a squad. So to put him back with Paul Wilkinson, we brought in John Hendry again from Middlesbrough. When he first played, he'd not played for a bit, so it put a bit of weight on. Not a lot, but a bit of weight on. But you could see in the first game that give him 4 or 5 games, and he would be the difference. And he was the difference. I can remember 2 particular goals that he scored for us that season. One was in the Cup at Old Trafford, when Peter Schmeichel came out and sliced it to clear the ball and sliced it, and all of us stood up, absolutely willing John Hendry's little legs to get to the ball before Schmeichel did. And he did. He got to it just before Schmeichel and put it in the empty net. Put us 1 up. They equalised, Sheringham equalised, and then it stayed at that, and we beat him in the replay. But Andy Liddell was taken out by Gary Neville in a few minutes from the end. And I don't know how the referee didn't give a penalty when he took him out at waist high, but these things happen. The other one was in the league at Sheffield United, and we beat them 1-0 with a ball played to the front post, and he did a back flick that fooled everybody. And obviously it's at Sheffield United. Everybody went wild. So yeah, he was actually the difference for us going to the Premier League, and the first time we've ever been in the Premier League, and truthfully the only time we've been in the Premier Leagues. So you can't forget the thing from John Hendry. In fact, that combination put us in front against Bradford City in the penultimate match of the season. We turned to Bradford City a win, and we would. Like I say, we'll be up for the first time in our history, teams like Barnsley don't go into the Premier League. And he got it wide on the left, John Hendry, and crossed it over to Paul Wilkinson, who headed it in at the far. Well, he headed it in from the front middle of the goals, but to the far post. And I have never seen a headed ball take so long to go into the net. And I think about 20,000 in the whole stadium stood up expecting something, and everybody stopped breathing for a split second because it was going so slow. Then obviously the ball went in, and the crowd absolutely erupted. And then we were lucky with a couple of Bradford City could have equalised, should have equalised, hit the post, and then right at the end with a few minutes left, Clint Marcel danced about at the edge of the box and put in the second goal to win 2-1. And the dream was alive. Never ever believed in my lifetime I would see Barnsley in the Premier League. In fact, to be honest, everybody. I mean, I said it then, but all the old men like I am now were saying they don't want it. They don't want to go up. It costs too much. They don't want that. They don't want to go up. And in fairness, it was a fabulous. The end of the match, everybody invaded the pitch. Well, Ardington just sat there. But the Bradford City fans were wonderful because they applauded and were singing bands, going up and what have you. They were an absolute joy to be with. So it was a wonderful day. So Hendry played his part in that. Obviously, went into the Premier League, and we tried and we tried and we tried, and it didn't work out. We got relegated. Danny Wilson left to manage Sheffield Wednesday in the Premier League, and John Hendry took over. And it was probably just a bit unfair on him, really, from being a player to then becoming a player manager, or really mainly just a manager. We didn't go back up, and so he was replaced. So we'll still be a legend in Barnsley for the not because we didn't go back up, and he didn't do particularly well as a manager, but he's got legendary status because of the part he played in getting Barnsley to the Premier League.
I was going to ask you about the managerial stint just briefly, Andy. Obviously, it's come at the end of your career, at the end of his career, as you mentioned. I guess, was it a case of just sort of maybe right man, but just at the wrong time? Just at, when it happened was obviously just as you come out of the Premier League. Perhaps at another time he could have been had a more successful time of it. Perhaps.
Yeah, in my view, I mean, the two things that happened when we were relegated, which were a crying shame for us. Not that far from the start of the season, Danny Wilson went to manage Sheffield Wednesday, and inexplicably, I had no idea why. It could only have been for the money. We sold our captain, fantastic, which was Neil Redfern, to Charlton. And he'd pulled us by our bootstraps into the Premier League, and he scored some great goals from midfield. I hadn't included Neil because he's not a striker. I've been trying to just concentrate on strikers, because if you'd have asked me about best Barnsley players, I'd have brought him, Adam Hamill that I've talked about, and the best of them all. Craig Hignett was stunning for us as a attacking midfield player. Which I'll come on to, that sort of era. The best of them all was Ronnie Glavin, King Ronnie. He's still revered in Barnsley. So, and so John Hendry was chucked in at the deep end. He lost the captain, lost the manager, just been relegated, and he got to try and rebuild it. And it didn't work that season. Whether we sacked him too soon or got rid of him too soon, I don't know, because everybody liked him. Well, yeah, it's football, isn't it? These things happen.
It does, yeah, and we know as well. Managers do come and go pretty regularly. Unfortunately, at Barnsley, we know we're looking for a new manager.
Three things that are definite in this life: death, taxes, and managers leaving.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
That is it. That's a motto to live by, I think, particularly in the football sphere. Brilliant. Right, let's move on to number 2, Andy. Who have you got up for us next then?
Well, number 2 is actually the player the striker that I've liked the best ever. But I put him at number 2 because I've said I've did it in chronological order. The best Barnsley striker, put at number 2, when we were in the Premier League, was Ashley Ward. He came from Derby. He'd scored against us, and then we signed him from Derby. I wish we'd have signed him a couple of weeks earlier. We might have done better. And he almost single-handedly kept us in the Premier League with some incredible goals in a relatively small amount of time. We paid a record of 1.3 million, which for us was, I think we've only paid that a couple of times ever. But what a difference he made! I particularly remember we played away to Liverpool in the league, and we beat them 1-0 at Anfield with him scoring a goal. And we were there, myself, my wife, my 2 kids, John and Catherine. They were teenagers at the time, and they blow the final whistle, and of course Liverpool are what they are now, a huge team. That we should have been hammered, but we won 1-0. So as we're walking up, my 2 kids, because they're teenagers, and of course they know best, they're smiling and laughing, and I'm saying, as we're walking along with a couple of thousand Liverpool fans, look glum, for goodness sake, look glum. So I forced my kids at one of the greatest of their moments for Barnsley to look glum. I've never regretted it, and I've probably shaped him wrongly by doing that. But yeah, I thought it's better to look glum than be, the people start having a go at us. But no, it was a great day, absolutely great day. And Ashley was an absolute star for us. He comes so close with his goals to keeping us up. And then we Blackburn Rovers, he scored something like 6 goals in 8 matches, something like that. And Blackburn Rovers came in for him and paid $4.5 million, which was, they could afford it, but my goodness, I think it bought one of our stands. I think we should have called it Ashley Ward stand, because it paid for what, for Oakwell to be upgraded on one side. But we don't get that amount at that time. We never got anything like that amount of money for players. So it were only fair for him. We got relegated and they were up there and what have you. So it was fair for him, but it was a crying shame for the ones, such as me, who thought he was an absolutely stunning player.
Yeah, I guess
I still watch him. Still used to watch him on Real Housewives of Cheshire because he played for us. I can't believe that I'm watching a program like Real Housewives, but we did because of Ashley and Dawn. But,
I guess
sad, isn't it? Sad.
When he left for Blackburn, obviously it was disappointment. I guess it was. You probably might have known it was coming.
I think it was pretty clear. He had a bit of an injury, so he'd not played. It was pretty. I mean, he scored something like 20. I think it was 25 goals in 61 appearances for us. Mm. The final goal. There's moments in time when you think everything in a game is going right. We finished up. We played Huddersfield at home and beat them 7-1. And it's the only time, it was his final game. He scored a goal, and it's the first time that Craig Hignett, who we'd signed, played. And I think it was 6-0 at half. I think it was 5 or I actually think it was 6-0 at half time. Might have been 5. And for that half, everything we touched went in the goal. A perfect half. And a lot of it was down to the fabulous attacking midfield skills of Craig Hignett, and then team up with Ashley Ward. And if anybody Googles that game, watch for a crossover to the left-hand side where Darren Barnard, our left-back, scores. It's probably the best goal any Barnsley players ever scored. He hit it on as it came over from the right-hand side as a left wing-back. He hit it from the edge of the box on the left-hand side on the volley, straight into the other side, back to the other side in the top corner. Amazing. Everything we touched went in. And then he left, and it was a shame because we were at our absolute peak then, and who knows where it could happen. But Barnsley, you can't turn down $4.5 million. Flipping heck.
No, I mean, so I guess that's almost like triple what you paid for him at the time, isn't it? So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent.
Remarkable player, an absolutely remarkable player. Everything, he got speed. He was brilliant in the air, a target man, a true finisher. He could score where others couldn't. Absolutely amazing player.
Okay, brilliant. Andy, we've got one more to talk about, haven't we? So, as you said, Andy, you've been doing it in chronological order. So, who's your final pick?
Well, the last one you can't not do. The last one's Bruce Dyer. Bruce Dyer was the first £1 million teenager, not by us, when he went to Palace from Watford. We got him from Palace, and what a player! What a player he was. He still lives in Barnsley. He still supports the club. He does. He's heavily involved in his church. He's involved in junior football. He does all sorts for charity. We've had him on our Red All Over show a few times, once, George, and he was a joy to talk with. Absolute joy to talk with. We had an argument, but because I checked because Google's the god, isn't it? And I checked and saw that he'd scored 59 goals for us. He said, I think you'll find it 69 goals. 69 goals. Now, one thing about Bruce that my brother always used to say, is a few years younger than me, he always used to say, Bruce Dyer had scored umpteen more goals if he knew offside rule. So I said 59. Bruce himself says 69. My brother said he'd have scored 99 if he could have stayed on side, if he knew about offside rule. So he was a star for us, a wonderful player. I talked with him on our show about in 2000 we reached the playoff finals against Ipswich. In the semi-final, we were the first leg we were away to Birmingham City, and I can only describe Bruce's performance that day as a masterclass in finishing. He scored 2 goals, and we finished up beating Birmingham, who were highly fancied, more so than us. We beat them at St Andrews 4-0, and it was absolutely remarkable. When the final whistle went, not unsurprisingly, Birmingham City fans were a little bit upset. They'd just been hammered 4-0, and I mean hammered 4-0. I know it could have been more. And so they were a bit lively. Let's put it that way. So myself, I'd taken, my wife hadn't come, but I'd taken me teenage kids, my daughter Catherine and my son Jonathan, and we're, as you would do with what was going off with bricks coming over the wall, hiding behind a wall. And while we're there waiting for it all to calm down, the police to move on all these Birmingham City fans who are venting their frustration, let's say, I look round and my daughter hands me a mobile phone and she says, "Mum wants to talk to you." I said, what does she want to talk to me about? She wants to know what the heck you brought my kids to. And I said, "Catherine, end the call. Just end the call." So she gave me the phone. So I ended the call and she sat here without talking to her. Oh, it's an interesting journey when I got home. We had a bit of a discussion about what I'd taken her children to. The problems I've got for her children. Bruce scored in the second leg. We played at Oakland in the second leg, but we lost 2-1. But it didn't matter. We'd already beaten them. So off we went to Wembley and lost 4-2 in the end to Ipswich. Bruce, obviously started that with Neil Shipley up front, and then came off for what was our second record signing, Georgie Ristoff. We came close to equalising, but then they broke away and scored a fourth goal to make it 4-2. We missed a penalty. But I just want to bring this up, George. It was a fabulous day at Wembley against Ipswich. It was great for us. The Ipswich fans were superb before the game, during the game. There was there were football rivalry, but nothing at all, no difficulties at all. Everybody got along well and could talk to each other and walk around together. So it was a wonderful day. So,
do you think it's?
So thanks for that, Bruce. He nearly got me divorced, that Bruce Dyer, by scoring 2 goals. Okay.
It sounds like your trip to Liverpool, your trip to Birmingham as well, Andy. You seem to be getting a few close calls on your trips with Barnsley.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, we've been to Wembley. I mean, there were twice we went to. I'll tell you what we have done. We've won the Johnson's Paint Trophy. We're the last winners of the Johnson's Paint Trophy. Nobody else has won that. We went to Wembley twice in a year. In fact, they don't. We don't, in Barnsley. We don't call Wembley Wembley. It's called Oakwell South.
Of course, South. Yeah.
Not Wembley. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not without its moments supporting Barnsley.
No. Certainly not. And just on Bruce Dyer again, Andy. I mean, you look at his career. He obviously spent a fair amount of it at Oakwell, didn't he? Do you think you perhaps got to see the best of him over his whole career? You perhaps got to see the best of him, at your club.
I would say so. Say so. He again, it got it apart from the offside. He got it all. He could finish. And he was quick. He could turn defenders. He could move. He could, like some of the best players can, he could move with the ball at his feet. He didn't have to have it on a sixpence for him. He could make something happen himself. It was a joy, apart from the offsides. It was a joy to watch. Okay. Yeah, and I don't think we saw the best of him.
Yeah. All right, brilliant. Well, Andy, that wraps up our Barnsley fan debate, looking at the 5 best strikers you've ever seen. I'm sure Barnsley fans watching will be agreeing with your picks as well. Some great stories in there too. I've certainly been entertained this last half an hour. I'm sure plenty of people watching have as well. And yeah, people at home, people wherever you've been watching, do subscribe to our channel, YouTube, Football League 12, Football League World TV. That'd be greatly appreciated. Andy, where can we find yourself? You're on Red all over, aren't you?
Oh yeah, there's a few. We're not do bad in Barnsley for considering we're not that huge a club. We don't do bad in Barnsley for YouTube channels. There's ourselves, Red all over. There's Tykes TV. There's in the Red Corner, which is a new one coming up. A guy that lived near where I used to live that does it, and a young lad that goes to all the grounds called Barnsley on Tour. But yeah, Red all over. We're slightly different to the others in that there's four of us, although we've got a number of others that come and join us. There's 2 old fools like myself, me and Alan Smith, who's 3 months older than me, and I'll make that. Them 3 months are important to me. Yeah, I've known Smith. It's just a tragedy. This I've known Smithy for 62 years. Wow. So we went to school together, infant school and what have you, and we still see each other at Barnsley. We're still on the show, so we can reminisce, and we do because we're old fools. There's the host, which is Joe Beardsall, who set it up. It used to be a radio show on a local radio channel. That then was taken over by a national channel. So Joe Beardsall decided to take it to YouTube. That's what we thought, took it to YouTube. So we've been doing it. This is our second season. So it's doing really well. And we've got Josh Adderton, who's another young one. They both still play football, you see, and obviously me and Smithy don't. So it's a nice mixture of four people, two young, two older, and then others. We have a few others like Jane Ogley and Tom Webster that come on and do it in turn. We have Rob Cooper who comes on, who does the music. Rob Cooper's a musician, did the music for us, and that's excellent. So we've known each other quite a while. So there's a lot of banter. We talk football. There's a lot of banter. We've got to make sure that we explain the banter between us. So we do that, put it in context. So it's a fun show. It's serious about football, but we also have a heck of a laugh and take the mickey out of each other all the time. A bit like you would if you were sat in a pub having a drink of beer or in a coffee shop having a coffee. Yeah. So it's read all over on YouTube, and I think you don't have to be a Barnsley fan to enjoy it, but it helps.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Great. Cheers. That's superb, Andy. It's been a really interesting talk, and hopefully we'll get you back on it soon, talking Barnsley again. I'm sure perhaps when you're climbing up that league table, got a new man in charge, hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Well, thanks everyone again for watching us here on Football League World TV. We will speak to you very soon.